Hi, welcome to my channel, Reader Woman. My name's Judy, and let's talk book tags. In particular, I'm going to read this out. It is the one that's been going around a while, the second tome around, which is a book tag that was created by the Hungry Bookworm. I've seen a lot of people do this, and I thought it'd be fun. So let's get started. The first question is, do you buy secondhand books? I do. I do. I buy a variety of books, but I don't have a problem with buying secondhand at all. In fact, it's usually easier on the pocketbook, and quite often you can get more interesting editions and also collections that you just don't find in a new bookstore. 2, what is or was your latest purchase? Well, as I mentioned earlier in my earlier in the year, let me put it that way. Earlier in the year, I went to Portland and went to Powell's bookstore, which has a variety of both new and used. I did buy new, I did buy used. And probably my favorite thing of it all is this beautiful hardback edition of Seamus Heaney's Beowulf. Really excited to get this in this beautiful hardback copy. Excuse me. So, like I said, you find some amazing things, which is why I like it. Let's see here. The next question. I'm reading it on my Kindle here. What condition do you find acceptable, i.e. tatty or not tatty, etc.? I brought an example. This is probably as tatty as I will go. It has water damage, you can see, or maybe it had water damage. It has a tag here. I don't normally like that. I mean, it's falling apart, let's face it. However, I really wanted it. I have always been interested in mathematics, and so this book on Leibniz I definitely wanted. And until recently, until the advent of eBay, where you could actually find more, excuse me, I'm gonna lower this here, where you could find different copies, I would pretty much buy what I could find of interest in a used bookstore. However, I did have one really bad experience with a used book. And it wasn't that it was water damaged or it was, you know, tatty and da-da-da-da. It's that it stank. The person who had it before was a smoker, and I never even thought about it. But when I went to open the book and read it, this stench of smoke was horrendous. And at that point, I said to myself, I will never buy another book. I mean, not without smelling it, but at least to make sure it hasn't been contaminated by cigarette smoke, because that was truly, truly awful. I read the book, but then I didn't keep it because I couldn't. I mean, it really stank, and even after reading it and opening the pages, it still had a terrible odor. So I do watch out more for odor than anything, which is kind of odd, I know, but it was just my experience that I had. All right, number 4, after you have read said book, do you keep it for a reread or do you donate it? I tend to keep my books. I have to say my book buying life is changing, but traditionally I've always reread. you really couldn't trust me with a library book. I never wanted to return it because I did tend to reread. So anyways, that's my excuse. So I always had to buy my books, and once you have it, and if it's a good book, why aren't you going to reread it? Number 5, do you have a favorite place you like to go when looking for secondhand books? Now I wanted to talk about this for a moment. I do buy from eBay. I have bought 2 books of, I don't know, approximately $20, $25 each, but I got this beautiful hardback copy of Juliet Barker's The Brontes, and I also got Hamilton by Ron Chernow, both books of which I knew I wanted to archive. And for the Barker book, I called the 2 remaining local used bookstores to see if they had a copy, and they did not. So I just decided to go at it that direction. So traditionally, that has never happened before. I mean, this has only happened in the last couple of years. And it's been a nice resource. I loved getting to go to Powell's Books. It was a little overwhelming in the sense it just had so many books, and I had to focus on, but I had a good idea of what I was going to try and look for. I wish I'd have looked a little deeper, you know, things like that. But at the same token, I felt relatively pleased with my selection from there. But I don't get down to Portland very often at all, and that was the first time since living up here for 40 years that I actually went and did that. So, yeah, I would say Powell's would not be on one of my favorite places to go. My town of Bellingham, Washington, has been blessed with some great used bookstores. We've lost a few over the past 5-7 years. There was one called Michael's that I sold books at, and while for me to sell one of my books normally, well, I've only done it once, caused me great angst, and I'm pleased to say that I did get one of those books back. Not my edition, but another, a friend found a copy of it for me and gave it to me, so I was happy about that. But they dealt with me fairly, and I actually got a little money, which I needed at the time. Yeah. So let's go on to, they are no longer in business. They went out of business, and so there's no going to Michael's anymore. They didn't have a great selection. The bookstore across the street kicked their ass, Henderson's, whom I tried to sell some books to and had a very, very disappointing experience. And we'll leave it at that. I love Henderson's. I don't go as often as I should. But then I haven't really been buying a ton of books either. But I say that because of that experience, which kind of put me off of them. But, you know, they have a great used bookstore. But the guy's a little bit weird. This had to be 10, 15 years ago. I was in there just kind of rummaging around, and all of a sudden I hear this guy run out from behind the counter and go over to this customer and accost him and say, "I know you. You were in here before and you rearranged my books. Get out of here. You are banned." And when I heard that, I very carefully put back what I was looking at back on the shelf and made sure it was exactly where it came out of. So it's a little interesting place, but great selection. There's a couple of books in there that I'd really love to take home one of these days. One is kind of like an architectural look at Regency Bath, and I love that book. I've looked at it every time I've gone in there, but I just haven't wanted to spend the money on it, so one of these days, if it's still there, I will. And then the other one that I really like is Eclipse, the Eclipse. And Henderson's is kind of downtown, and Eclipse bookstore is in Fairhaven, which is kind of a she place. It's really hard to find parking is what it really is. I found some great things, and I've gone in there and haven't found much of anything. But I definitely got a lot of great hardback books of T.C. Boyle, of which I read The Women and Riven Rock. And I was really excited to find these. And so yeah, at times they're just amazing. At others, I can just go in and go out and not find anything. But yeah, probably the best in town is Henderson's. And then just to come clean, we also have our charity places, which I do not consider dirt cheap. Although there is one there's a book, I think it was at Goodwill. Was it Goodwill? Goodwill or Value Village. They had an Alison Weir book with all of the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and I didn't get it. It was like $5. So I'm gonna have to go back and buy that if it's still there. We'll see. But I wasn't really pleased with their selection, and what also amazed me was how homogenous the two places were. It was like almost exactly the same books, which I found very disappointing, because you would think there would be more, they'd be different. So anyways, but I have bought books there and on the used market. Our independent bookstore, Village Books, also in Fairhaven, they have like a tiny collection of used books. I really haven't bought any there. It's kind of an odd, I mean, everything's new. So I don't know where and what they put together for that. So anyways, oh, and now my Kindle has gone silent because I've talked too long. Okay, let's go back here. Hardback or paperback? Do you have a preference? That is question number 6. In my life, I'm going for hardback. In some ways, I feel like I have so many books, although you wouldn't know it because I haven't shown you more than a handful of my books so far. But I have so many books, and so many books kind of like the Leibniz, which is in poor shape. And I think part of what I would want to do is to improve the quality of the books that I want to have. I'm not saying this is what I'm going to be upgrading, but to upgrade to have a nice solid copy that will, last as long as I need it. And to replace particularly the books that are falling apart. And I have quite a few of those. Number 7, have you found any real gems? I have. You're gonna kill me. I forgot to get it. It is De Quincey's Confessions of an Opium Eater. And this I got like 100 years ago, when I think it was like my late teens. I was in college at the time, and I just happened to go to the local book library sale. And I was just rummaging, and then I came across this amazing edition. I think it was 10 cents or a nickel, from England, hardbound, and even the pages hadn't been cut. I ended up cutting them for this deckle edge thing, and it is definitely one of my pride purchases. I just love it. But don't get me wrong. I love all my books. Let me see if I can find this one quickly. No, it doesn't look like I'm going to. Well, maybe I will. I also am very pleased to have bought this lovely little edition of the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. And I didn't realize it, but what I had done when I was in high school was I had bought like a little Viking reader. And so it had this novel, it had poems, it had a poet, a play, one of Stein's plays. It had all these things in there, as well as like the start of the Making of America or something like that. What I think that's the Making of Americans or something like that. Her great big tome. So that's what I had bought back then, and that's what I had read. So a few years ago, when I looked to just be rereading the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas, I couldn't find anything. And I'm like, what the heck? And then I realized that it was part of that. So when I was at Henderson's, let's see how much I paid for this. Not that easy to say. Oh, I don't know. But it was at Henderson's that I got this. I looked for a single copy because I didn't want, because that Viking old, it's gonna fall apart and crack on me. So I bought this lovely edition. It is a gray arrow, and I believe this is a British edition. Let me see if I can. Yeah, London, and I think this was printed in 1960, but it has these wonderful photographs in it, and which it was such a gift, and then even on the back cover, another one. So yeah, I'm very pleased with some of these things that I've bought, I have to say, for various reasons, whether they're this, beautiful hardbound, or whether they're just a lovely older paperback edition. Yeah, there are a lot of them. I feel very proud to have in my collection. Let's see here. Then number 8. Find a book from your shelves that you can donate to a good cause or your local charity Goodwill shops. I have a box of them. So I will, in the month of February, get them over to Goodwill. Get them out of here. So anyways, yeah, I already have a box put aside. And yeah, definitely do that. And then it says, number 9, go ahead and tag some people. Pretty much everyone I know of, I've already seen done it. If you haven't done this tag, highly recommend it. I think it's cool to see, to see and hear how we all feel about used books. I mean, anyways, I'm not a collector in the sense of some people, but you know, I have always loved to buy used. So anyways, I highly recommend doing this tag, and I'll talk to you later. Happy reading, guys. Bye.